A pleasant day everyone! So andito na naman tayo sa ating next topic which is the part 3-C of the Police Intelligence and Secret Services. Gaya ng sabi ko sa inyo from the previous presentation of nung pinost ko sa channel is all about Intelligence Evaluation Guide. So dito natin dapat na malalaman or ating pag-alaman kung gaano talaga kaimportante na mai-evaluate yung information. At saka gaano kaimportante yung information na nanggaling sa isang source or galing sa mga sources na ito. Okay? So meron tayong of course acronym under the reliability of sources of information, accuracy of sources of information, andito din CPP dit of course. Ating pag-usapan yan mamaya. At saka yung pangatlo is sources of information. Andito yung pag sinabing sources of information, saan ba ito nanggaling? Nanggaling ba ito sa isang tao? Nanggaling ba ito sa isang kumpanya? Isang establishmento ng gobyerno o establishmento ng pribadong establishmento or kumpanya. So, dito natin i-evaluate kung ang isang information ba or intelligence ay isang or galing sa E1 source. Pag sinabing E1 source is completely reliable and confirmed by other sources. Nanggaling ba ito kay T or direct officer or chief of unit and or office. Yeah, so now please hold on to your seat and listen to the discussion. Hopefully that you'll be able to understand. So that maging fruitful naman yung araw natin. Okay, let's start the ball rolling. Okay, the next thing is Intelligence Evaluation Guide. So in order for us to evaluate the intelligence properly, we need really a guide in order for us or in order for an agent or intelligence officer be able to have a good outcome or probable outcome that could be used in their operation. But before we'll proceed to the proper discussion on this topic, let us have a drill first. We have the question: when after the gathering of information, what is referring here as the reduction of information into writing or some other form of geographical representation and arrange it into groups of related items? What do you think is the answer? Is it A, disposition, B, preservation, Charlie recording, and Delta writing? What would be your answer? Okay, let's proceed to the answer. The answer is recording. So of course, sinabi dito reduction. Okay? Sinabi dito reduction of information. The other term for recording is reduction of information into writing or some other form of geographical representation. So meaning to say that is a process of recording now wherein the data has been put into writing or has been put into documents by means of writing, or it could be in a means or form of geographical representation. And now let's proceed to the next. Another drill. It is the determination of the pertinence of the information to the operation, reliability of the source of agency, and the accuracy of the information or examination of raw information to determine intelligence of value. Question: what process of intelligence applied here? Is it A, pertinence, B, reliability, C, evaluation, and Delta, credibility? What do you think is the best answer, the correct answer? Okay, the answer is evaluation. Why your answer must be evaluation? So in this drill, you must initiate or apply the elimination process. Why the alpha, Bravo, and Delta must be eliminated? It must be eliminated since it has already been mentioned in the question, such as the reliability, the accuracy, of course, that talks also about of the credibility. And of course, the question here is that what process? So the pertinence, the reliability, credibility does not belong to the so-called process. It is only the evaluation is in a form of process. So that is why the answer would be Charlie, evaluation. So now let's proceed here in evaluation. The evaluation wherein to determine the following. First, the pertinence. The second one, the reliability. And the third is credibility. Let's discuss first the pertinence. In the pertinence, has a question, does it hold value to current operation? Is it needed immediately? So that is what we mean by pertinence. Pag sinabing does it hold value to current operation, magagamit ba? Does it has a relation with the current operation? If the answer is yes, and therefore the data that had been gathered is pertinent to what is required in the operation. And the second one is reliability. In the reliability, it involves judging the source of information by the agency. So, pag sinabing judging the information or the source of information by the agency talks about reliability. Maaasahan ba ang information na nag-gather? So that is what we mean by reliability. Meaning to say, judging the source of information by the agency from where it was taken or from whom it was taken. So that is, or that talks about reliability there. From where it was taken, meaning to say that refers to agency. Does it came from the governmental agency or the non-governmental or the private agency for that matter? Or from whom it was taken, that talks about the person. Does or did it gathered from the shall we say informant or the informer, or from the grapevine individual, or the ex-convict and or the prisoner? So that is what we mean by reliability, judging the source of information by the agency. And the third one is credibility. So it answers the question of truth of information. So credibility involves the truthfulness of information. Is it possible for the reported facts or event to have take place? Meaning to say, if the event and or the reported facts has not taken place, meaning to say, walang credibility yung information na nag-gather. Okay? But if the reported facts and or event has taken place, meaning to say, the information's credibility is at stake. So, and the second one, is the report consistent within itself? Because if the report is consistent, it holds credibility. But if the report is not consistent or inconsistent, it does not hold credibility. Another, is the result confirmed by corroborated by information from different sources or agency? Meaning to say, if the result confirmed by corroborated data and or information, meaning to say additional information or additional data from different sources or agencies, it might hold credibility since it has been affirmed and or confirmed by other source of information. Meaning to say, meron bang nag-supplement or does it supplemented with other source of information? So that is the thing it refers to here. Okay? Because if such, it holds credibility. If the result does not agree with information from other sources, which one is more likely to be true? Okay? So that is credibility. Next slide is that the evaluation guide. So what this guide means, meaning to say, when a particular agent or the decision maker would evaluate the gathered data or information, he must be referring to the evaluation guide in order for him or for her to give a positive feedback on the gathered data and or information. First here is we have the evaluation of reliability of information. Pag sinabing reliability of information, reliable ba yung information? Meron bang kinalaman sa current status or current operation? So be reminded that in the evaluation of reliability of information, it represented with the alphabets A, B, C, D, E, and F. And be reminded that each alphabet has a corresponding meaning. If the reliability of information represented with A or alpha, it simply means that document is completely reliable. And if Bravo, it means usually reliable. And if Charlie, that represent fairly reliable. And if it is noted with Delta, that means not usually reliable. And if it's Echo or E, it is unreliable. And Foxtrot or F, it represented with reliability cannot be judged. So that talks about the reliability of information. So later on, in order for you to understand well or even to memorize or remember the evaluation guide, I will be giving you a acronym later on the next slide in order for you to easily remember and not for you to easily forget. The next table here talks about evaluation of accuracy of item. Accuracy of item or accuracy of information. The question here is that how accurate the information is or how accurate the informations are. In this very table, the evaluation of accuracy of item, it represented with the numerals or the numbers from 1 to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And of course, each number, it represented with different meaning. So, simply means it corresponds with a value. If it is in the representation of 1, meaning to say, that item considered to be confirmed by other sources. Like for example, if the reliability and accuracy combine together such as A-1 or A1 data, meaning to say that data or document considered as completely reliable and confirmed by other sources. But we will not stick muna for the example. Let us have that example later on the next slide. And if it is represented with 2, of course it means probably true. And if it is 3, possibly true. And 4, doubtfully true. And 5, improbable. And 6, represented with truth cannot be judged. Be reminded, as I've told you here in the reliability, you have the acronym COFNOR. Okay? COFNOR will be discussed later on. While on the other hand, in the accuracy, it must be in the acronym of CPPDIT. But be careful in the 2 and 3 because you might interchange the meaning of the 2 and 3. Be reminded that it is represented with probably true in the number in 2 and possibly true in 3. So what should be the thing you are going to remember or done in order not for you to interchange the meaning of 2 and 3? Be reminded in the alphabetical order because in the alphabetical order, like for example, QRS. So, alin ang nauna dito sa alphabetical order? R or S? Of course, nauna dito ang R sa alphabet. QR. At saka susunod yung S. S. So, meaning to say, be reminded or just remember the pro and the pos. Okay? Probably true and possibly true. In the CPPDIT, there are 2 P's. That is why you should remember the R and S in the alphabetical order. Pro and pos. probably true, and possibly true. Because most of the time, even me during my time, I have a confusion really in 2 and 3 in terms of the definition or in terms of its corresponding meaning. Because most of the time, the probably and the possibly is or are sound alike. That is why you need to find way in order for you not to get confused. So be reminded, alphabetical order, pro and pos, R and S, probably true and possibly true. And the next table we have here is all about evaluation of source of information. So as an agent, or the agent for that matter, needs to evaluate the source of information. Okay? Because there's no need for the agent to accept the information and or the gathered data without even knowing the sources. Okay? So in the evaluation of sources of information in this very table, it represented still with the alphabetical order. But it is different from the evaluation of reliability of information. Because in the evaluation of source of information, it represented with the alphabetical order from Tango or T up until to Zulu, okay, which is the Z. So T represented with direct observation by commander or chief of unit. U report by the DPA or resident agent. V report by PNP or AFP troops. W interrogation of captured enemy. X observation of government or civilian employee. Y member of the populace, and the next one is documentary. So as you can see here or observe here, the definition of the alphabet from Tango up to Zulu is quite long. That is why you might lose along the way. Okay? But in order for you to easily remember or easily memorize, we will have an acronym of the following tables so that you will be able to use it whenever you will take your examination. Okay, here we are. The acronyms to remember. First is the reliability of information. So we have two columns here in the particular table. Be reminded that the reliability of information represented with alphabet. Okay? Represented with alphabet. Meaning to say, a while ago, we are discussing the definition of the alpha. Like for example, if the document represented with alpha, what it means. So we have this on the right side column of the table with the initial letter of the definition of alphabet, which is the CUFNOR. CUFNUR. These first letters are the letters or the starting letter of a word that we present with this alphabet. Okay, so bear with me because we will have the definition of the following acronyms. Be reminded, CUFNOR, A, B, C, D, E, F, CUFNOR, A for C, B for U, C for F, D for N, E for U, F for R. Let us have first the C for the alpha. Okay. C stands for completely reliable. Okay. C stands for completely reliable. And U stands for usually reliable. Next, F stands for fairly reliable. N stands for not usually reliable. U stands for unreliable, and R stands for reliability cannot be judged. Why is that? Because unang-una, okay, whenever you will be confused as to the definition, such as for B and for E, that is of course the same letters in acronym, that is U and U. So of course, you must know these things, usually reliable and unreliable, because there's no way for you to interchange, Okay, there's no way for the agent to interchange that in the alphabet A, represented with the acronym of U, which is usually reliable, which is correct. Okay? Like manner with the Bravo, U represented with unreliable. That is very X or very wrong. Okay? So be reminded that the definition of the following corresponds also of what is being asked in this table, reliability. Because the next table that we have here talks about the accuracy. So do not be confused. Because like for example, C and C. Okay? This one completely reliable and this one is confirmed by other sources. Pag sinabing reliability, it has a question about the occurrence of the event and or the facts. While in the accuracy, it talks about how accurate the information is. Okay? So be reminded in the accuracy, it represented with the numerals and or the numbers. Unlike with the reliability, it represented with the alphabet. What then is the acronym of the under the table of accuracy from 1 to 6? Of course, we have CPPDIT. In short, CPPDIT. Be reminded, CPPDIT. Okay, let us have the definition of these things. First, we have confirmed by other sources. Meaning to say, of course, it talks about credibility. Meaning to say, meron kang information, okay? Like for example, you have information coming from a certain individual. And that particular information has been confirmed by the other source, of course. Pag sinabing confirmed by the other source, as you've researched it, or as you've gathered the data coming from the document of a person where he was or she was employed previously in a particular company, corroborated with a document that is confirmed by other sources. So that is C, confirmed by other sources. In number 2 and number 3, be reminded, this is very critical because it has two P's and there's no way for you to interchange this, such as probably true for 2, the first P, and possibly true for 3, and that is the second P. Ano kaibahan ng probably at saka possibly? Okay? In the probably, it has a high percentage that the information's accuracy has a high probability. While in the second P, which is in the number 3, possibly true, meaning to say, parang in the middle of, parang hindi possible, at saka parang possible, okay? So that is the difference between the two. Be reminded, as what we are talking about a while ago, pro at saka pos, in order not for you to interchange these two things. R, S, in the alphabetical order, R at saka S, probably true and possibly true. And the fourth one, we never represented with 4, that is in the acronym of D, doubtfully true. Pag sinabing doubtfully true, parang katanggap-tanggap na hindi katanggap-tanggap. Okay, so ibig sabihin, doubtfully true. Yes, the information gathered might be true, but it is very doubtful on the part of the one who received the information. So it needs to be evaluated, needs to be processed. Like with the one that is confirmed by the other source, it needs really corroborate. It needs to be corroborated with other information and or data. And the fifth or the number 5 is I, improbable. Okay, meaning to say ng improbable, hindi accurate yung information, improbable. Okay, parang hindi magagamit. Okay, parang hindi magagamit yung information. The information may not be in use or might not be used later in the operation and or the investigation. And the 6 or the number 6, that is T, truth cannot be judged. Pag sinabing truth cannot be judged, might be it is a product of improbability or doubtful information. Truth cannot be judged, meaning to say it has a very low assessment that the truthfulness of the information being gathered and or collected could not be used or not in line with what is not in line of what is being required in the operation. Okay, so since we are done with the reliability and accuracy, let us now proceed with the source of item or source of information. Of course, we have the following from Tango up to Zulu. Okay, so T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. The following alphabetical orders or alphabets represented with this acronym. We have we have DOC for T. We have the RDPE or RA for U. We have the RPNP or EFP for V, ICE or ICE for W, OG or CE for X, MP for Y, and DOC for Z. So, as you observed a while ago from the previous slide, it's quite long. But since we already have the acronym, and I want you all to familiarize the acronym since we are going to give the definition of which. Okay. DOC or DOC represented with the definition of direct observation by commander or chief of unit. So it's quite long, but since we have the acronym here, we might not be confused. Next one, report by DPA or report by resident agent. So that is very short. Okay? So whenever there is a question pertaining to this, so there's no way for you to remember the whole definition, but by simply remembering the acronyms, and that is the time for you to remember as well the definition of which. And next one is report by PNP and report by EFP troops. That is for V. ICE stands for interrogation of captured enemy. OG or CE, observation of government or civilian employee. Next is member of the populace and documentary. So as you can see, the sources of information, like for example, here in the accuracy, you have C, confirmed by other source, meaning to say, you have the information from the DOC or direct observation by commander or chief of unit. By this information alone, it has been supported by the report by PNP and or EFP troops. So the documents is very strong. Commander, chief of unit, and it has been corroborated or supplemented with a report by PNP or EFP troops, and that belongs to confirmed by other sources, accuracy in the representation of one. Alright. While on the other hand, interrogation of captured enemy. So interrogation of captured enemy, this might be in the category of possibly and or doubtfully true, because interrogation of captured enemy, the statement there and or the accounts coming from the enemy might be true or might be false. So that is why it must be categorized under the accuracy of possibly true or doubtfully true. We also have the observation of government or civilian employee. So it could be possibly true. Okay? Pwede din namang ma-doubtfully true kasi observation lang man yun. Because not all the time that the intuition of a particular individual by mere or through observation is correct. So that could be possibly true or doubtfully true, but that depends on the assessment of the agent or the decision maker during the evaluation and or the analysis. Next, member of the populace. So hindi MP does not stands for military police, it stands for member of the populace. So meaning to say member of the general populace, it could be the normal person or the resident of the particular area who happen to be the person as a source of information wherein you've conduct an interview or the agent conduct an interview. And the last one under the Z, if the source of information labeled as Z, that represented with documentary. So in the documentary, it might be taken from the government agency, might be taken from the non-government agency, or else from the records from where a particular subject or target connected with. Okay. So bear in mind the following acronyms of the reliability, accuracy, and the source of information. Reliability, be reminded, represented with the alphabets, and we have the acronym of COFNOR that corresponds to the alphabet. While on the other hand, we have the accuracy represented with the numerals, and it has an acronym of CPPDIT, in short CPPDIT. While on the source of item or source of information, we have the TUVWXYZ represented with the alphabet, and the following acronyms that correspond to what is being asked under the source of information. Okay, so we will have an example in order for us to have, for us or for you to easily remember the things that we are discussing. So, but before the drills that we are going to take with the guidelines given by the evaluation table, let us first discuss the interpretation. So, interpretation is very crucial in the aspect of intelligence evaluation analysis because it ensures the definition of the data being gathered once evaluated and processed. Interpretation, let me first give its definition. It is establishing the meaning and significance of the information. So, as you can see here, establishing the meaning and significance. So, meaning to say, whenever the interpretation of the data being evaluated and processed by the decision maker is A1. Ano yung A1? Ano yung A1? Yung A represented with what? Completely reliable. Yung 1 is confirmed by other sources. So, meaning to say, the data that you have evaluated and or processed represented with alphabet and numerals in the accuracy and credibility of the information, that is for A1. So, meaning to say, you are going to give the meaning of the A1. The meaning of the A1 is completely reliable and confirmed by other sources. And of course, to establish its significance. How significant is the gathered or evaluated data and processed data in the usage of operation? So, that is why interpretation is very needed in this very stage. So, interpretation involves the following activities. First, we have analysis. Second, we have integration. And the third is we have deduction. In the analysis as a process of interpretation, it involves shifting and isolating those elements that have significance in light of the mission or national objective. Meaning to say, shifting and isolating those elements. Meaning to say, in the process of analysis, it involves shifting and isolating of elements. Those elements where it was taken from whom it was taken from, in order to proceed with the integration. Because in the analysis, it really gives the light of the mission if it has a significance whenever it was evaluated and or processed very well. So this is very crucial in the mission or in the national objective since it involves critical condition of the operation. Right after the analysis, it must now proceed with integration in the process of interpretation. What then to be done under the integration? In the integration, it combines the elements isolated in analysis and known information to form a logical picture or theory. Okay? be reminded to form a logical picture or theory, combining the elements isolated in analysis and known information. Meaning to say, since you're already done with the analysis, and therefore, you are selecting those important elements from the process of analysis and the integration, combining and or collating all the elements that had been chosen or selected from the analysis and known information for the very purpose of forming a logical picture or theory of the evaluated and processed data. Because as such, if the logical picture or theory has been formed, that is the time that the decision maker will be able to give what type of intelligence that they have possessed, or this intelligence could be of great help in the operation, could be used by a particular intelligence officer in the operation. Right after in the process of integration, since it involves collision of information or collision or combined elements, it is now it is this time to proceed with deduction. Deduction, it is the formulation of conclusions from the theory developed, tested, and considered valid. Meaning to say, since the decision maker has already formed a logical picture or theory, it is the time that he is going to make a conclusion or to formulate a conclusion from the theory developed from the integration. That is, of course, the determination of effort and meaning of the information. So, meaning to say, the deduction stage or process is very important since it gives the meaning and or the definition of the information being processed and or evaluated as it underwent the process of analysis and integration under the interpretation. So, of course, with the help of the evaluation guide and down to the interpretation, so meaning to say the data that have been evaluated and processed under the evaluation guide has been interpreted through analysis, integration, and deduction processes, and that is the time that the decision maker would be able to give feedback as to the classification or the type of the document that they had formed. To proceed with, we have now the drillings or the drills, okay, for what we have discussed a while ago pertaining to the evaluation and analysis and interpretation of the gathered data. We have here the question. Bogart, an intelligence officer, told his intelligence handler that he finally succeeded in his assignment, telling his subject. He said that the information's reliability is very high and is confirmed by his other sources. If you are the head of intelligence where Bogart was assigned, how will you evaluate the information? Is it A, B1, or is it B, A1? What do you think is your answer? The answer must be, of course, B, that is A1. But ganon, but A1. Be reminded with the definition of A1. Okay. Just go back to the question. Telling his subject. Accordingly, he said that information's reliability, pinag-usapan dito, reliability is very high. Okay? Very high yung reliability ng information. Question, sir, paano yun? Wala namang very high na definition of reliability of information in the evaluation guide. Of course, that substituted with the A, that is completely reliable. Very high, completely reliable. Wala namang ibang very high dun sa reliability box or table. That is very high, completely reliable. And it is confirmed by his other sources. confirmed by other sources. Ano yung confirmed by other sources? Of course, that is 1, represented with 1. Okay, that is in the accuracy of information, 1. Okay, so the answer must be bravo. Completely reliable at saka confirmed by other sources. Yung completely reliable here is represented with a very high. Confirmed by his other sources is represented with 1 in the evaluation guide, as what we have discussed a while ago. So these are the sample drillings of the evaluation guide that we have discussed. I hope so that there are some learnings that you have learned as to how are you going to evaluate whenever it involves a question like this. Okay, since sometimes the questions will be shuffled or the questions will be substituted with other words, or ika nga, being paraphrased. Being rephrased. Okay, we have another question here. It is quite long question. So in the actual board examination, there are a lot of long questions. So that is why you need really be trained to read carefully and fast assessment as to the question being given. So let's start. Agent A conducting surveillance to Mr. Rabbit. Upon the arrival at the beer house, Mr. Rabbit ordered a 2 jumbo beer and sit on the table good for 2, and Agent A positioned himself to an obscured table. After a while, there is a man joined to Mr. Rabbit and they discuss some things while Agent A listened at a distance. After a couple of minutes, there was a phone call answered by Mr. Rabbit, and after a while Mr. Rabbit left the bear house. Together with a man joined him, and Agent A noticed that there is a piece of tissue paper left on the table. Then he got it and left the beer house. At the end of Agent A's surveillance, he wrote all the communications that he heard from Mr. Rabbit together with a man, transferred the writings from the tissue papers to his note and time, day, date, and the location of the area that the subject hung out. Question: what process did Agent A use in terms of collection of information? Okay, so we have the following choices: A. Evaluation, B. Collection, C. Recording, and D. Preservation. So before you will answer that, kindly go back to the question. As you can see, there are a lot of things being mentioned and enumerated on the very first sentences, but on the latter part of the paragraph, there you can see the question is being asked. The question was not asked from the beginning or even in the middle, but it was asked in the end. That is why do not anticipate the question, because sometimes it seems like a question from the start of the problem or the statement, but the true question is at the end of the paragraph. So what do you think is your answer? Answer is, that is recording. Why is that? Hindi naman pwedeng evaluation, hindi naman pwedeng collection, preservation. Yes, may sinabi ditong wrote all the communications I heard from Mr. Rabbit together with a man, transferred the writings from the tissue papers. It could be collection since Agent A gathered a tissue paper where he could see the writings over there that could be used in the conduct of investigation. But the question, what process? Okay? The question here is what process? The question is what process? So that is why collection, evaluation are not under the category of process. Okay? Yes, preservation could be a process, but it does not fall under the perspective of this question, since it does not belong here as what is being stated na hindi naman nag-preserve yung agent dito. So what the agent did was recording all the data that he gathered. Next and the last drill we have, still in the evaluation guide. Be reminded with the table that we have a while ago. As to the intelligence evaluation guide, what is the nature of information being gathered if its reliability is fairly reliable and its accuracy is 2? What do you think is the answer? So the previous question a while ago, ibinigay yung definition. Okay? Binigay yung definition both highly reliable at saka supported with the other information and or confirmed with the other source of information. But here, in this question or situation, the definition was given and the numerals was given. So therefore, the things that you are going to give as an answer is the reliability as represented with the alphabet and the definition of the two as given in the question. So the answer here is, of course, that is alpha. C, probably true. Okay? Because in the reliability, sabi dito, fairly reliable. So be reminded on the alphabet A, B, C. Okay? A, B, C, COF, NOR. COF, C, U, F. So pang ilan yung F? Pangatlo. So pang ilan yung C sa alphabet? Pangatlo din. A, B, C. C. That is why fairly reliable. And the other hand, probably true. Bakit probably true? Kasi yung accuracy is 2. Bakit probably? Hindi ba pwedeng possibly? Hindi pwede yung possibly. As we clarified the atmosphere a while ago, or the confusion a while ago, 2 and 3 has the same initial or the same initial letter of the meaning of 2 and 3. So that is probably true and possibly true. That is why if it is 2, that is represented with the definition of probably true. If it is 3 in the accuracy category, if it is 3, that is possibly true. Be reminded, as I told you, apply the alphabetical order. R at saka S. Probably true and possibly true. So therefore, the answer must be probably true as represented with number 2. So the answer in this very question is we have alpha, C dash probably true. I hope so you get along with these drills and you'll be able to formulate some clarifications on your own whenever you will be encountered this type of question. Okay, natapos na naman natin ang isang presentation which is the part 3-C of the Police Intelligence and Secret Services. Okay. So, hopefully, na meron kayong natutunan kahit papaano sa presentation na ito. So, next presentation to be posted is all about intelligence cycle. So, yun ang sabi ko sa inyo, napakagandang topic na ito kasi tinutukoy dito kung paano sinasagawa yung intelligence. Okay? So, meron itong cycle which has a beginning and an end, and of course, it's just only having a rotational process. Di ba? So, yun nga cycle. Pabalik-balik lamang yung usage niya o yung proseso kung paano talaga pinoprocess yung intelligence. So, this is the part 3-D as the last topic of the third scope, which is the intelligence and its perspective. So, thank you for your time and hopefully, abangan nyo ang next presentation na ito kasi napaka-importante ito. Have a great day.